My name is Simon Brew, and this is the latest episode of Thoughts on the Blues, following Norwich City 1, Birmingham City 2. Friends, I went through 4 pairs of trousers watching that game. For your sake and mine, I'm going to do this episode sat down. Hello, and a very warm welcome to a very happy, joyous episode of Thoughts on the Blues. Recording this has been the least stressful thing I think I've done on this Saturday afternoon. And what did I do? I sat through a Blues match as we took our unbeaten run to Carrow Road, where in every bit of build-up, I'd read everything everything I'd seen building up to the game. It was simply Blues haven't won there since March 2002? I remember the game actually when Stern John, God bless you Stern John, popped up and got a winner. That was the season. Yeah, I'll say it out loud. I'm too happy for a Saturday afternoon. That was the season where we found our way to the play. You know what happened that season. It was with some degree of trepidation after, a 7-8 game unbeaten run. The home game at Leeds last week I finally got hold of one of these. Home game I paid for it. I should point out that this show is not sponsored. I've been asked to clarify the sponsorship status of Thoughts on the Blues. It is not sponsored at all. I'd like to say it's because I'm fiercely independent, but, try your luck. I've watched sponsorship go by at the Oxford United ground, if you remember, which was ethical coconuts. Norwich were trying to sell me Willie's pies today. Did you see the billboards? Willie's pies, ethical coconuts. Do you know what? If you want to sponsor this, as I think it was Sir Thomas Beecham once said, I'll try everything once except incest and folk dancing. You send me all your cash, I don't care. Anyway, going to Norwich with a kind of sense, I kind of put in my head, now we've had a run of games where you felt we should have got results. The ones coming up, I kind of looking at in a bank of 5 and think if we can get 10 points from this bank of 5, which starts with away at Norwich, away at Millwall and home to Middlesbrough, it's just like, that should keep us roughly in contention. 10 points. Right. And in truth, I thought going to Norwich today, if we got a point, that would be good. If we got an away performance, that would be good as well. I'm conscious that in the comments below some of these videos, there's been conversation about how we've only won the easy games, which I don't buy at all, but we've only won the games that we expected to win. I'm not sure many people, appreciating what happened when they came to our place, I'm not sure, given Norwich's current run of form, given our inability to get a result at Carrow Road for a long time, many Blues fans would either A, call this an easy game, or B, have an expectation over hope that we would walk away with 3 points. And yeah, here we are. 3 points better off. So, if you remember, when we played Norwich last time, I did look it up. That was the one where we won 4-1. It was our third 4-goal haul in a row at home. We followed that up. Our home game after that was the home game against Watford that we ground out 2-1, which I described then as probably our most important win of the season. I think today's is a rival for that because it was a joyless win to watch for a long period. But it's the kind of win where you have to fight and scrap and battle to get over the line. Rode our luck a little bit. Norwich rode their luck a little bit. 2-1 on balance. Yeah. I mean, if you remember back when we played Middlesbrough and they beat us 2-1, that could have gone either way by the end. This had an element of that as well, I think. But you take the result, and we got the goals. And the reverse fixture was the 150th birthday of Birmingham City fixture. Do you remember that? The one that they celebrated by bringing a shed out into the pitch at half-time to play that amazing game of, can you kick the ball into the shed? No, you clearly can't. Sod it, have the prize anyway. We've got the sponsors in. Just go. Take the prizes. Just go. The team lineup that day, it was a game where Marvin Ducksh got 2, Jay Stansfield got 2, and we sort of let Norwich in a little bit. Mark Leonard started that day. Lewis Kumas came off the bench. On the bench were Keshi Anderson, Aaron Cashin as well. And what do you know? The win that day left us 1 place off the playoff places and with hope building. And I remember walking away thinking, as long as we don't screw December up, we might be in a healthy position by the end of the year. Yeah, we all know. Anyway, I wasn't in Norwich. I was taking advantage of the fine services of Blues TV commentary. I logged onto it quite early actually, and I mean traditionally the audio wasn't working very well, and they were doing lots of testing. But you remember the bill in the early days when it's just all crackling into the radio. That's what it was a bit like. Also, I was very conscious that we were up against a Norwich team that had changed since we met them last. So they just changed. I mean, every team we play seemed to have just changed manager for a while. Philippe Clement had come in. Look, a little bit of an accent for you. Philippe Clement had come in. It was his first game in charge. Hadn't had time to impose himself really. Now he had Norwich look a much better outfit as a result. I should also point out that this is the third time this season now we've played against a relative of a former Blues player. So we've played, I don't know, we've had Emil Heskey's son against us at Sheffield Wednesday. Today was Jacques Magoma's brother came on. I mean, we've got Millwall coming up. I mean, what are we going to have? Mick Harford's second cousin twice removed. He's going to play left back. I don't know. But a bit of a family affair. The problem I've got is these relatives of former players tend to be really good. So if any relatives of former players who aren't very good could look at our upcoming fixture list and sign for some of those teams, I can't tell you how obliged I'd be. When Jacques Magoma's brother came on, I was just like, oh, I used to really like Jacques Magoma. I wonder if his brother's as good. How the hell did that not go in? So, I mean, we'll come to it. Norwich have turned around. Their home form is a lot better. Their points since Philippe Clement has come in far improved as well. But we had a January, and never did our January look more important than today, I would suggest, because we look at the lineup, which you'd think I'd had the foresight to preload, but entertain yourself for a minute. It's Saturday evening. I'm happy. I'm not having anything to drink until I've recorded this. That's the end of the episode. Try it now. Ha ha. You look at the lineup. I'm following the Leeds match at the weekend. I mean, we had 3 changes, and it's a bit of hard luck, really, because I think there was a real clamour for Ryan Alsop to start. He was excellent against Leeds. His distribution was superb. Not much he could do for the goal. His shot stopping wasn't massively tested, but I suspect Chris Davies had a decision there about whether to bring him in or to keep him in or not, but he went with James Beadle. A decision I would suggest was heavily vindicated in the end, but still, you have to call it a gamble. Then you've got Iwata coming in alongside Solis in midfield. A very away match midfield, that looked like to me, quite tight. And then Stansfield relegated to the bench for this one so that Prischke can come in. And we've got, this back four of Asai Samuel. Kai Wagner now just looks like part of the furniture, doesn't it? It looks like he's been here forever. If you go back to his first few games, he had that tremendous debut, the impact within 6 minutes or whatever it was. Then, my throat really wants a drink, can you tell? Then he had 1 or 2 slightly shaky games, but now he just looks like he's just been there forever. He looks like part of the furniture. He's sublime. And the best thing I can say about Kai Wagner is we don't notice him a lot of the time because he just gets on with it. So I've not mentioned him in the last couple of videos, really, and I kind of felt that I should. So Kai Wagner has been a sensational signing. And we didn't even know that Alex Cochrane was going to be injured for a large part of the season when we signed him, but there you go. The idea of attacking Norwich, not just with that team, but with the bench that we had, well, that was the bit where January felt important to me, because the players on the bench were players who were starting or you would think would be first choice, like if you go back even 2-3 weeks. Tommy Doyle there. Ethan Laird back for the first time, 5 months or so, is it? He's been out. Lovely to see him on the bench. Phil Neumann on the bench. Panzo preferred to him, which I think was the right call beforehand. I definitely think it was afterwards. Patrick Roberts on the bench, Jack Robinson back from injury on the bench, Jay Stansfield on the bench. That was an embarrassment of riches, and that was an absolutely fundamental difference to the team sheet that we put out, that we had a good-looking first 11 and we had options. As it turned out, it wasn't the substitutes that changed the game in this particular instance, because the first 11 went and basically did a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So I was going to call this a draw going into it, and then I was greeted by the most helter-skelter first 5 minutes or so that can remember. I mean, we've had some fast starts to games, and there have been some fast starts to games. But you go back to the home game against Albion. More happened in the first 5 minutes of Norwich versus Blues than happened, to my eyes, in the entirety of that Albion game by the end. It was a sensational start. It was a firing out, and for both teams as well. Both teams were going for it. But the interesting thing was putting August Priska at the top gave us a focal point. So there'd been criticism, conversation about James Beadle's distribution. Which, particularly when compared to what Ryan Allsop was offering us last weekend, I thought his distribution today was terrific. But I also think August Priska's head really, really helps as well. That we've got... my kid was watching and just said, have you noticed how tall our team is? And yeah, I have. But if you stack that against the team we were putting onto the park in August, I think we had the conversation back then. It's just like we were playing quite a short team. Now we've got height. And now up front, I mean, we had Lyndon Dykes, but Priska, I think, is offering an awful lot more. And 20-odd seconds, was it? He won a header. Carlos Vicente goes right the way through. We could have been one up inside 20, 25 seconds. We were that fast off the mark. A force the save. And, twice in the opening 5 minutes, Carlos Vicente effectively goes one-on-one with their keeper. Now, this to me... one-on-ones are always tricky. I think particular credit goes to Carlos Vicente, who's running towards goal, and he's faced by a goalkeeper whose choice of moustache I would suggest, be familiar to those who watched a certain subgenre of films in the 1970s. According to my mates, and not me. I never watched stuff like that. And so the fact that he wasn't put off and basically got 2 shots off on goal, I think extra applause is required there. Before I get to his goal, though, there was something else really crucial that happened in the opening 5 minutes, and because we scored early, it might get a little bit lost in the conversation. And that's Jonathan Panzo was immense in that opening 5 minutes, because it was absolute, as fast as we were out the blocks, it was absolutely not one-way traffic. That Norwich had a really good chance to go basically one-on-one themselves. Panzo comes in with a brilliantly read sliding tackle that if it had gone wrong, I mean, it just would have affected, let's just say, one of those tackles that would have affected the entire game. But Panzo times it, gets us out of danger. We're still 0-0. Now, a lot of our away games this season, we've done that thing of we concede the goal first. You remember that run where, 10 matches running, or in 10 of our 11 games at one point, we conceded the first goal away from home. It's moments like Panzo's that stop that narrative continuing. Imagine if we'd had his foot in September or October. I mean, it's all hypothetical, right? But it's a small moment in the game that won't make the highlight reel, but I think it was absolutely pivotal to sort of what happened next. Because also, Priska was causing all sorts of problems. He won a couple of headers inside the first minute. He was a handful for the defence. And unlucky to concede a free kick in one particular attack. Again, that was only like 3-4 minutes in. And I sat watching. It was just like the Albion game was like Crown Green Bowls. The slow motion replay of Crown Green Bowls, in contrast to the absolute urgency of this. We were set out to attack and hit them hard. Jurgen Klopp used to do this with his Liverpool team. God, I never thought I'd be drawing that comparison, but he tried to target getting a really early goal, and I think it's quite bold to do away from home. At home, you've seen us do it loads and loads and loads, but our approach here was we don't need the possession. In fact, our possession was quite low in comparison right throughout the game. But we hit them hard and we hit them with pace. And we've basically got four winger options who offer 4 slight different variations. The crucial bit, though, was, I think, when Beadle got the ball to Bright Asai Samuel, who had a terrific game. He only tired a bit by the end, but his best game in a blue shirt, which, considering before that, like we were saying the same thing like a week or two ago, his improvement since he came back from the African Cup of Nations has been pronounced. He looks like the player we had in August again. So then he just gets he knows exactly what he's doing. I'll get the ball there because Vicente will run into it. Vicente is reading the game about, I don't know, 3 seconds ahead of everyone else. He's off, stays onside. I did look at it at first and think, is he offside? He just wasn't. His timing was perfect. He runs towards the moustache in goal, doesn't get distracted, and he does a thing where he just looks across, because we've got, was it Marvin Ducksh was running in the centre, so slightly distracting the defender, because he'd had 2 defenders on him at this point, and he just whacked it between his legs against the post. I'm just like, what's going on? And, true confession, I got woken up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning and didn't get back to sleep. I'm exceptionally tired. I thought I was hallucinating. I just had some like fairly intense coffee, which probably didn't help, and probably didn't help with the first pair of trousers, if I'm being honest with you. But 1-0 up, the official time of the goal was 5 minutes, and an assist to Bright Asai Samuel. And it's just like, yeah, this is a different Blues away, isn't it? Not just the fact that we took our chances, which is obviously pivotal. We've seen so many times, like, I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but you can't ignore it. It's just like you saw those chances fall to someone like Kyogo, force a save or drag it wide or something like that. Vicente just wants to hit the target, and had hit the target twice inside 5 minutes. The second one went in between the moustache's legs. Incredible start. And, I couldn't help but think it was the story of Panzo, Bright, and Vicente in that. I just loved the fact that he wanted to shoot. I was so happy I almost put into my Google search Willie's Pies, but then I just kind of figured that might just knack it. That bit where like the algorithm recommends other things, I couldn't take the chance. I've got kids. That, after a while this stuff writes itself, doesn't it? So there was a slight wobble in there as well that I want to acknowledge, because when we played Norwich at home, I thought we had a bit of a tickly belly that day, that we were ruthless, but they were really good at just basically, they had moments where they were just waltzing through our midfield. Now, if you try and waltz through our midfield now, let me introduce you to a man called John Solis. Mr. Solis is not keen on you walking past him, but my mild alarm bell, and I thought he had a good 7, 8 out of 10 game here, is he's just not quite, it's happened in a couple of games, he's just not quite as careful with the ball as someone like Peck or Iwata. He is an absolute brick wall to have there, and our midfield is upgraded for having him. I would just feel a little less scared if his passes went to a Birmingham player, like 99% of the time, as opposed to 90% of the time. It's small margins, but we're at the point of the season where it is small margins. You've seen the same league table I have. You've got like that weird hope thing going on, and it's stuff like this. So, there was one point after we got the first goal where Solis, because he lost the ball twice near our box in that first 10, 15 minutes, and one of them led to Norwich getting a shot away on target. Now, it wasn't a great shot. It was the kind that Beadle could put his book down, stand up, and then pick up. But still, they got a shot on target. I don't like other teams having shots on target. I'm too old a Blues fan. I've seen too many of those go in, I think. So then, one thing, before we got the second goal, Prischke got in a shot that I'm still kind of confused how he got the shot in, and how well the mustachioed man in goal managed to save it. So, it was Beadle this time, distributing it to Gray. Gray traps a football with sublime. He just looks like he's taking the rise. He sticks his foot up, the ball sticks to his foot with a bit of sellotape, takes the sellotape off, crosses it over, and Prischke is not just looking to get on the end of it. He realises the ball isn't quite where he needed it to be, and rejecting the Scott Hogan manual of strikers, he contorts his body to sort of it was almost like an overhead kick, which looked like, it looked like it was going in, apart from a superb reflex save by the keeper. Credit where credit's due. From the resultant corner, we're still only on 12 minutes. From the resultant corner, we nearly score again. And, there was a bit where the ball was basically static, almost on the 6-yard line. Who's going to kick it? And Clara nearly gets his foot on it. The keeper manages to get it. But Norwich were absolutely swaying at this point, and not in any kind of positive recreational way either, let me tell you. They were in deep trouble, and you just sat there thinking, right, if we don't get the second goal, we're just going to let them back in, aren't we? It's just going to be one of those. And then we get the second goal, and I'm really happy. And it was Bright Asai Samuel again. In fact, it was a beautifully ruthless move. And Chris Davies, in a few press conferences this season, has talked about not getting the ball forward fast enough. We've had the conversation so many times about going sideways, backwards. This was 2-3 very, very quick passes. Ball gets to Bright. Bright gets it to Priska. Priska puts it across the goal. Ducksh, boom. Superb finish. And I checked my watch. I checked I was awake. And it was, we were 2-0 up after 14 minutes. Away from home. I checked it was bloody April Fool's Day, to be honest. I mean, this has not happened. We looked absolutely dominant. At that point, I'm thinking we might even get a third. And there's this old cliche that there's no score as dangerous as 2-0 up, which I always think is absolute cobblers. I watched us lose to Watford 3-0, and I thought losing 3-0 to Watford felt a lot more dangerous than leading 2-0 at Norwich. But I get the idea of it. If you let them back in, then football cliche dictates the Alamo will follow for a little bit, which sort of happened really. But we were still going at them, and in fact, in fairness to Norwich, they were trying to come at us as well. Both sides hitting the wings, both positive, both surging forward. It's just for the first 25 minutes we were bloody brilliant. And Priska put he got another one that he put Vicente through. Tomoki Wata gets on the end of Vicente's cross, earns us a corner. And I noted down, like, about 23, 24 minutes, I just that fear. Are we going to see this out? Have we got the ruthless streak, just like the dogged determination to get this over the line? Because, if you're going to go 2-0 up, I mean, it's useful to be 2-0 up at 89 minutes, not 14 minutes. Again, I'm still happy to be 2-0 up. But, I mean, we sit there thinking, well, there's at least 76 minutes of this. The ref's bound to add a lot on. It could be one of those. But two things were still happening. Number one, Panzo was still tackling people. I'm just like, where? I mean, it's the Ben Davies upgrade up a further notch, isn't it? Oh, God, keep at that level, Panzo. And I think we're in... Yeah, I'm scared of saying it out loud. You might be thinking it as well, but we're in a good place. Let's go with that. And then we've got Neumann on the bench as well, and I quite like him, but Panzo at the moment is your go-to, isn't it? There was a moment just before the half-hour mark, and just like, is it a Blues player that's done that? Do you remember when our key attacking wind threat was someone like Jonathan Lecco, who always tried hard? I've got no slight against him. He scored once as well. But you look how far we've come when you see Carlos Vicente just like drifting in from the side of the pitch, turning his man with managing to nutmeg two people at once with the back heel. Takes two of their players out, leaves one of them on their arse, gets the ball to Damari Gray. Gray gets it across to Priska, has a go, gets us a corner. And, I just thought at that point, Patrick Roberts must just sit there and think, they could have told me this when I was going to sign that contract, that he's going to be there. And I do think Roberts came on, played really well, and offers us something different. So, I don't mean it quite, but my point is, we've got this embarrassment of riches along the side of our team now, and you're just like, well, at which point Delia must have been like choking on a lasagna a little bit. She didn't look happy, did she? There were moments as well that pointed to how the team mentality is now working. So we've talked before about this thing about we would go, the prediction of we're away from home, we'll go 1 or 2 goals down by half time, lose by 3. The team will stop fighting, blah, blah, blah. So there's a bit on half an hour, I think it was, when Damari Gray loses the ball. He was thinking, oh no. And then you turn your head and he's tracked all the way back and won the ball back. And you're like, okay, that team mentality is absolutely motoring there. Something is working. And it wasn't that Norwich weren't coming for us and having attempts, but we looked in control. With a couple, I mean, the bits where Norwich were getting the most purchase, I thought Mohamed Toure up front looked a constant threat. I thought Ahmed on the left looked a threat for them as well. But they did insist on Grealishing. Now, this is a show for Birmingham City fans, and Norwich fans may have drifted in to have a look. I got no slight with Norwich fans. This is deliberately through blue eyes. One of them's wonky, and it's not for you. You're very welcome. Thank you for the 6. I can't thank you enough for the 6 points. We've given you enough over the years. And I understand Norwich fans aren't particularly happy with the referee. I didn't have a massive problem with him. I've seen some bad referees this year. Anyway, Norwich fans, lovely to see you. Off you pop. But the Grealishing was getting a bit. Now, we do a tiny bit of Grealishing. So I think I've said before, I do pan disability kids kids' football training, and if one of the kids flounces to the floor after a free kick, there is a verb from the ancient Latin to grealish, which means when a sparrow farts about 50 miles away, you hit the deck and try and get a foul. So Grealish Grealish all right. In this case, there was a lot of Grealishing. I still think Vicente goes over a little, certainly a lot stronger than he's been the last few games, a tiny bit too easily. I think Prishka's still adjusting a little bit to the physicality of it. But there are a couple of times Norwich players are just going down in the box and having a good Grealish. And I mean, in fairness to them, they must have looked at pulled a mirror out their pockets, looked at themselves, thought, I can't peel that. It's just embarrassing. And so the referee, who has sent off one of our players this season, was just like, yeah. So we've had our conflicts with him, we would suggest. Although I don't remember arguing the sending off. In fairness, I thought he was okay. I thought he blew for a lot of fouls, but I also thought there were probably a lot of fouls. And so, yeah, it was every time they got a corner or a free kick, though, which they did get, out comes the commentator with one of those facts about, this lot of the worst performers from dead balls in the league. You're just like, just shut up. Just shut up. Don't tell me that. Just don't tell me that. Then we kind of start. So we've had this thing throughout the season where, particularly when we're having our richer spell, where we go 25 minutes of, we did this a lot at home, of marauding through teams, and then we sort of let them back in for 20 minutes. There was a tiny bit of that, but I thought Norwich also earned their way back in. I thought we had a few loose passes, and there were little bits where it looked like we were holding the door for them, but not that much. I think they had to fight to come into it, and I think our energy just dropped off a little bit the last 15 minutes of the first half. And then you get these moments where they do get into our box. In fact, I should look this statistic up, because it felt like they were in our penalty area a lot. It felt like they had a lot of touches in our penalty area, which predictably is not the stat I don't think I've got here. Hang on, let me have a look. What's this? You can cut it out with your expected goals and stuff like that. Who cares? They're supposed to have more expected goals than us. I don't care. They certainly had more shots. They had 18 shots to our 9. 9 on target to our 5. But they felt like they were in our penalty area quite a lot to me. But also, we had defenders very, very keen to throw themselves in front of the ball, which helped. Still, James Beadle, I'll say his best performance in a blue shirt. Vindicating the decision to pick him, I will say I would suggest we would not have won the game today without James Beadle. There were 2 saves in particular that spring to mind. One fairly point blank that he tipped over the bar, where his reflexes were incredibly quick, got a hand to it, and I'm just like, oh, that's why you're in the team. Best save of the season, I thought, until he did the double save, which I'll come to in a little bit. I mean, it came from Norwich getting crosses into the box, which they were allowed to a fair amount. We did block quite a few. But then it's just like this really fast, hard shot comes at him. And I thought the save was immense. Absolutely immense. Then, our outlets started to dry up. We still have Vicente go. I thought he'd been booked at one point, but it was Christoph Clara, I think, who was booked in the end. Our only bookie of the match, I think it might have been the only bookie of the match, was Clara, actually. But, when in the first half at least, Vicente was reminding me, you've seen the film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? The Kevin Costner movie, with Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham. And it looks like Alan Rickman has just come in from a completely different film and he's having the time of his life. I got a little bit of a sense of that. How's that for an analogy? God, I'm getting worse. I'm so tired. He was a bit like the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He was stealing the ball and just... he just looked like he was on a different planet for about 10-15 minutes of it. He was great. There was still time before half-time, actually, for Beadle to do another really good ball out to Gray, who then managed to get it across. Panzo managed to skew in an effort that I don't know what he was doing in the box at that point. Norwich defender gets a foot on it. They managed to get it out for a corner. And also, a word too for Bright Asai Samuel. There was a bit just before half-time where it looked like he was surrounded by 3-4 players on the touchline trying to get the ball off him, and he holds the ball for about 10-15 seconds and wins us a throw-in. And it's just like, good God, it's just where have these performances been all season? And that's not specific to Bright Side Samuel. I don't think there's a mystery there in that we've given him a run of starts, and look what happens. We get a really good plan. There was a moment where we could where just before half time we could have sealed it, where the moustache passed it to basically pass the ball to Vicente. Instead of having a shot, he tried to put Marvin Ducksh through, who for once wasn't quite on his wavelength. And then just on half time, just as we get into added on time, James Beadle did a full Lee Camp as he catches the ball, flounces to the floor. Oh, I miss the Lee Camp flounce onto the floor. Half time, right, I wrote down, whoa, and WTF. I just couldn't believe how well we'd done. And it wasn't that... One of the reasons I draw a comparison with that Watford game at home is we were up against an opposition who were pushing us. That we might have blasted them off the park for the first 20 minutes or so, but they came right back into it and asked all sorts of questions. And unusually away from home this season, we had the answers. Could we have the answers in the second half? Well, it looked shaky, didn't it, for a while? There was one point, I've got one of these watches, right, which monitors your heart rate, tells you how many steps you've done. And at one point, it flashed up, you appear to be having a stressful day, about halfway through the second half. I looked at it and just like, but it's all right. I can probably get another one off eBay now if I can't fix it. Norwich bring Magoma's brother on at half time. And instantly, they have clearly had a rollicking, and they come out looking like a different team. Now, we've played now 4 halves of football against Norwich City this season. For 3 halves of football, we have outplayed them. For that last half of football, they outplayed us. And we had to do the Preston away performance to get this over the line. Very early on in that second half, and can you imagine if this had gone in, we got the James Beadle double save. He'd done his save of the season in the first half. He topped it in the second by not just doing the first save, being alert enough to get the second. And what I loved about it is how he celebrated, as if he'd scored a goal, as if he'd gone to the shops and bought a Kit Kat and found 5 fingers in it. He had that kind of look on his face. I was absolutely thrilled for him. But they pinned us for like the first 5-10 minutes of the second half. And the problem we were having was a fairly familiar one for us, in that we were struggling to A, get the ball past the halfway line, and B, keep it there once it was past the halfway line. I can barely remember us having a shot in the second half, and for 2 reasons. Number 1, Norwich were absolutely swarming at us, and number 2, we'd slightly changed, to my eyes, the way we were setting up and we were playing. We had a direct free kick. I mean, Damari Gray decided to take it and do a Patrick Roberts taking a penalty impression, but we were, I mean, Prischke was still working hard to bring the ball down, but there were fewer balls being aimed in his direction now, and so he was doing a lot of the running around, and I just thought, can't be long before we put Jay Stansfield on there. And they just kept, I don't know how you felt, but I just thought Norwich kept looking more and more and more dangerous. And I started to get that stressful, sinking feeling. I did not enjoy the second half of that football match at all. Previously, the least enjoyable match I'd watched us play against Norwich City, where we emerged victorious, was the playoff final, where we won on penalties in the end. But I remember walking out the ground after that when I was supposed to be euphoric, just being absolutely knackered, exhausted. I just thought, I hadn't even played. I just had a few drinks and cheered and stuff and sang some songs. I just remember being absolutely exhausted by it. This, I mean, I got to half time with 1 pair of trousers. I'd only gone through 1 at that point. The second half was just a disgrace. I mean, it was chewing your nerves off. My fingernails aren't great at the best of times. I'm not holding them to the camera or anything like that. Work well on the audio version of this. Oh, there's an audio version of this. I keep forgetting to say that. That's out on podcasty places, which if you're watching this on YouTube, probably isn't a fat lot of use to you. And if you found it on the audio, this has been the most useless 20 seconds I've said in this particular episode. And let's face it, there's been some competition as well. Anyway, Norwich finally do get past our defence and get into the box. Panzo, they get past Panzo, and it's Toure again, smashes this shot against the post. Now, I mean, in the match report that I briefly read before I did this, it was just like Norwich hit the woodwork, as if it was like some seismic moment in the game. And it was certainly a warning shot, but two bits about the hitting the woodwork. Number one, Panzo's defending was still very good, and he forced Toure out to a position where the angle wasn't in his favour. Number two, I think Beadle had it covered. Number three, it still didn't help my trousers. It still looked very, very... And let's face it as well, it was a really slippy pitch. People were falling over, and the damper the pitch, the more knackered the players get quicker as well. And I mean, the second half was a bit slower for that, but we looked a lot less in control. There was a point where I think it was roughly on the hour when John Solis, who again had a really good game, we look a lot more solid with him, but he lost the ball, and we were quite lucky that I think it was Ahmed was offside as he went through one-on-one. And you know, Beadle doesn't have a moustache to kind of distract people with or anything either. So that was called offside. But we got to an hour 2-0 up and just like, oh, is it nearly time to breathe out? Can I sort of relax? How late can we let them in for me not to worry? Yeah, right. So, 67 minutes in the end. And it came from us letting a cross. I mean, we just put Osman on for Gray at that point. And Osman had a really busy first 3-4 minutes that he caused mayhem. He wasn't really a massive attacking threat today, but I think it was a different game. But there were points in the game where he took the football for a walk at a point where we needed someone to take the football away from that side of the pitch and move it towards that. So he worked really hard. He didn't quite have the elegance of Damari Gray, and it's telling that the crosses had stopped going into the box anyway, from Gray as well, in fairness. Norwich then get a cross in. I think it's Panzo manages to get a head on it and get it down, but fairly fortuitously lands at the feet of the Norwich player, who absolutely smacks it. Beadle's got no chance. 2-1 halfway through the second half. Right, what are your organs like when it gets like this? Not those ones. What's your gut like? What are your inner organs like? How do you get when you're watching it? Do you get any fun out of watching the last 23 minutes of games like that? Notwithstanding the final whistle, which obviously we enjoy, but that was horrible from that point on. No slight to Blues. Norwich wanted it. We were, and it's a crucial test, this. I go back to the comments that sometimes come up about, we were only winning the games we should. We were up against a team that really wanted this. They were aching for this. They were straining for this. They had players, 3-4 different players, causing us all sorts of problems. They wanted this. And somehow we kept them out. Now, the reasoning for which, a whole bunch of good defending, some really dominant work actually by James Beadle, and a couple of crap shots. The perfect cocktail to get through the last 23 minutes of the game. I mean, they had a couple of through balls, one of which led to just a direct shot of Beadle, which was just a terrible shot, but you're just like, oh, we're in trouble here. Roberts came in and came on, and I thought really gave us a little bit extra. I think there was one bit where he was sort of dribbling away from his box. I just thought, oh, don't do that. Not at my age. Patrick Roberts owes me one pair of trousers or at least a laundry bill. But still, he's very good at keeping hold of the football. Stansfield came on to do a lot of running at the top, a lot of thankless and joyless running for him, it must be. But still, to try and keep things like under control. And Chris Davis was making the changes. I think he got to a point really where we hadn't been anywhere near their goal. It felt like for a good 20 minutes or so. And he made this big bunch of changes on 71 minutes. That 71, Stansfield comes on for Ducksh, Roberts comes on for Vicente, 78, Doyle comes on for Prischka and doesn't hold the ball brilliantly, actually. I thought Doyle had a great game against Leeds. I think I just wanted a tiny bit more care of the football again, but he was not alone there. And he did have a couple of really nice touches there as well. It was a delight to see Ethan Laird come on 79 minutes. For Bright's Eye Samuel, who I thought gave us a 9 out of 10. I thought it was his best performance for us. Laird's first job was to throw his body in front of the ball. I want to acknowledge as well something James Beadle did that was less showy than he says. A couple of times he just blocked a low cross. He got his body in the way of it and got it out. And it's the non-showy stuff sometimes that really, really matters. I don't think he'll get praise for that, and I think he deserves it. There was there was a bit where Tom Huddleston appeared to be sent off. I got no idea what he was sent off for, but I want to acknowledge he appeared to be sent off. I don't know what he did. Still my favourite Tom Huddleston moment of the season was the game where Davis was in the stands and Huddleston's covering his mouth, giving instructions when all we're doing is playing the ball sideways. It's just like, what on earth did you think? You know, why are you covering your mouth? We all know what you're saying, Tom. I don't quite know why he was sent off. What I do know is that last 10, 15 minutes, Norwich, the crosses were coming in fast. They were direct, they were punchy, they were asking a lot of questions. But that's where we found quite a lot of steel. The amount of Grealishing went up in the last 10 minutes, but players like Iwata, Iwata was really a rock, I thought, today. A very away from home performance of a midfielder, a very selfless team performance as a midfielder. I thought he was really good. It wasn't really until we got past 90 minutes that we started properly getting into their half again. And like when the ref holds up when the fourth official holds up the board for 6 minutes, you're just like every decision in your favour. And I'm very aware Norwich fans were shouting constructive criticism at the referee. Just feels like a goal, you know. So when Osman wins a free kick through sheer hard work and tenacity, 3.5 minutes into added on time, that felt like such a big moment. When Kai Wagner manages on their touchline to win us a corner with a minute or two on the clock, the game management of that finally kicked in. You know, the realisation, it's a bit unfair, isn't it? Because again, it depends what your opposition are doing, but they can't score if we're in their half. If we can hold it up there and get on their nerves and get their fans turning a little bit, then we've got a better chance of getting this across the line. So, in all truth, if you'd have asked me at 75 minutes what I thought the score was going to be, I'd have said 2-2. And in fact, I reflected to my kid, just like as it got to 90 minutes with 6 minutes held up, we're at least going to get a point out of this. The way we managed it from 90 minutes onwards, my heart rate and laundry would have been more positively affected had we managed it that way for the 20 minutes beforehand, which I know isn't possible to do, but still, blimey. I mean, I broke my watch. No, I broke other things that's probably best not to talk about on here. The bottom line is, it was an away performance, very much of two halves. The let's pretend we're playing at home half, where we just absolutely go for it, and then let's dig in and by whatever means get a result. And in the end, that's all that matters. You go back to that game where Stern John got the winner, 704 years ago, whatever it was. That wasn't a pretty game either. We got the goal, we dug in, we got it over the line. And you know, Norwich had the possession, they had the shots, they didn't have the ruthless streak. And at the end of it, they just didn't have quite the same level of steel. If I was a Norwich fan, I'd feel slightly frustrated, didn't get anything out of the game. But I'm not a Norwich fan, I'm a Blues fan, and so I'm bloody thrilled. The league table then. This is where, oh God, there are 13 1-3 games left. So, yeah, we're in 7th. We're in 7th place with 49 points. Wrexham above us have 51 points. The team I wonder we should be targeting is Hull. 5 points clear of us with a game in hand at the moment, but have got 1 point out their last 3 games and look like they might be in a little bit of a wobble. One of those teams in the top 6, not Coventry anymore, is going to wobble. Hopefully, given that our next fixtures are against 3rd place and 2nd place, neither of whom won today, those two will have a bit of a wobble. Millwall lost a winnable game today. We're at their place on Wednesday night. A game I'm not sure I can watch. I don't know how I'm going to do a video if I can't watch it. But I'll come up with some crap. I can do that. And then it's home to Middlesbrough. Statistically, the 2 toughest fixtures we've got left this season are our next 2 games. But if the level of ambition of this club is to be in the Premier League, and if there is a recognition that we now have this opportunity, and it's right in front of us, to push for the playoffs, you don't win them if you don't beat the 6 teams above you. We've played Coventry, we got 3 points off them. We've played Middlesbrough, got nothing. We've played Millwall once and got 3 points. Ipswich once, we got a point. Hull lost at home, still to play them. Wrexham, we got a point. This team suddenly looks really capable. It is the informed team in the Championship. There are only 2 teams in the Championship, God, listen to what I'm doing to myself, I'm so sorry, who have not lost in their last 6 games. Us in 7th, Southampton in 11th. A note of caution, right? Just because we're in 7th place with 49 points, 2 points off the playoffs, 13th place QPR, who we've got to play at home in a couple of weeks, are 2 points off us. You look at the spread of points from 14th to 6th, and there's 6 points in it. There are a bunch of teams who think they can have that last playoff place. If we are serious about this, as we have to be, it's why we can't target 6th. We've got to target 5th, possibly 4th. We might not get there, but we've got to shoot that high. Sod it, let's topple Coventry. That won't happen. Don't quote this back at me in that currently, an arrogant Blues fan, blah, blah, blah. I sat through the Karanka era. We all know the drill. Perhaps I'm just a bit too happy. I'm absolutely delighted with the win, but I'm too exhausted as a result of watching the game to properly enjoy it. Away at Millwall. The hope that kills you, right? It's the hope that kills you. But for now, I'm off to get a really good drink and a really nice willy pie. Take care.